The next thing we wanted to talk about, Chris, is this incredible strike deep inside Russia by Ukraine using AI-powered drones. A bunch of you probably have seen this in the news, have seen the videos. It was this incredible, audacious operation where, over a series of weeks and months, Ukraine smuggled a bunch of AI-powered drones in trucks deep into Russian territory. And then, on a command, all of these drones, that the roofs lifted off the trucks, the drones all came out, and they destroyed, I believe, about $10 billion worth of the latest Russian military aircraft right on the field. Zero casualties, no military casualties, no civilian casualties, huge damage to Russia's strike capability. And apart from just, feeling really cheered by this, I do think, and we talked about this last week, that this is really showing where drones and this sort of civilian technology is going to be the future of warfare. And again, brings Silicon Valley and tech and the military industrial complex much, much closer together. And you can kind of see what the future of warfare looks like. This was a beautiful operation. Drones will not always be as bloodless as this, but that is clearly where the future of war is.
I didn't dig deeply into the mechanisms that they used here, except that what you just said, which is that they transported them inside these mobile homes and stuff, and they were launched at all in unison. But the footage I saw didn't seem AI-like. It seemed more like human operator and like, the way you might fly a DJI drone where you're kind of looking around and deciding where you want to go and this kind of stuff. But irrespective of whether they're AI-powered or not, what I think this really speaks to more broadly is the increasing asymmetry of warfare. How warfare is becoming asymmetrical, actually, which is the idea that you deploy a bunch of tanks and a bunch of fighter jets and a bunch of carriers, and a one army goes up against another army is going to seem as archaic as all of those sword wielding armored up soldiers on a big grassy knoll somewhere. This is increasingly a battle of wits, a battle of, frankly, terrorists, of individual actors, of deploying assets in quietly in strategic places, unmanned aircraft, swarms of devices being drones, being other kinds of vehicles, even legged robots, the four legs, two legs, you name it. I think war is going to look very, very different for our children. On one hand, it might be a bunch of automated assets blowing up a bunch of automated assets, which makes it more bloodless, and it's a war of pure assets versus human life. Or on the other hand, it might be the capability to strike deep into civilian territory and, murder people while they sleep. And so I don't know which way this plays out. Maybe in the end it works out like everything else, which is somewhere down the middle. It does remind me of this, and maybe I've mentioned this before on the show. I think it may be, there's a number of Star Trek episodes that deal with this idea of like perpetual warfare, where the war is not affecting the humans, and therefore they just keep doing it. Or there is a machine that is just instructing the war to keep going, and it's this like endless feedback loop. I think one of the episodes is "Let this be your last battleground" or something. This idea that war becomes so bloodless or so remote or so automated or orchestrated that we don't feel the waste and the suffering caused by it. And that might be because there isn't any suffering, or that might be just because the suffering is too far away. I think this has been true for a while, especially for the US. The wars are so far away, the citizens have no idea about the human toll of these things. But I worry it'll become more true for more countries more of the time.
No, I think that could be true. But, for me, the biggest takeaway, apart from, I mentioned last week, I think when this war does hopefully end, to your point, Ukraine is actually going to be a leader. Because the way I see this, Chris, is that warfare is becoming increasingly a question of software, right? Like, it used to be a game of hardware, right? Who's got the biggest tanks, the fastest planes, all of that. Now these drones are consumer hardware. Anyone can buy them. But to actually make them effective at fighting wars, that's a software game. And that's a game, that anyone, not anyone can play. It requires a lot of capability, but it doesn't require a lot of capital. So war fighting has become a lot less expensive. And I think this sort of changes the calculus on how weapons are built and how militaries are set up. And the reason why, again, I think it's relevant to this show is it becomes much more like consumer. products, right? It's software and it's consumer tech is converging with military tech. And when I say it's converging, I think it is the consumer tech that is kind of taking over a lot of the, you could say disrupting, using the classic innovators dilemma, right? That the consumer tech has gotten so good that a lot of dedicated military hardware is no longer needed. And sure, you'll still have your supersonic jets, but most of the time, drones are it.
I would broaden it slightly to say it's not just about consumer tech taking over military. I would say it's really the Silicon Valley style product led philosophy that's taking over everything. So if your company, your military, your services business is not thinking, acting, executing the way a Silicon Valley product led company is, you are likely in trouble. You need to have great product craft, product thinking, product managers to really triangulate the needs of your customers and to build things that are mass produced, self-serve, and high scale. And this is true if you're a military, and Andrel is leaning into this, or if you're an insurance company. The idea of throwing bodies at shitty bureaucracies and bespoke processes and hoping you're going to scale it's dead. It's done. It was done when software was eating the world, and it is the final nail in the coffin while AI is eating the world. And so, you either need to turn the battleship, to use the military terms, you need to turn the battleship around, or you need to eject some kind of safety lifeboat and start again in some skunkworks project, some incubator, something. And really try to supercharge your company before it gets eaten by the rest of the Silicon Valley elite. All right, guys. Well, those are our thoughts on the future of warfare and product-led operations for companies. What do you think? Join us in the comments below and let us know your thoughts.